on the screen as soon as Jeannie has a chance to get back to that. You're standing in a huge crowd at the base of a big mountain. It's a mountain that rises abruptly out of the barren wilderness environment. Mount Sinai, your leader calls it, though the locals also know it as Mount Horeb. Moses, your leader, has been telling you about this mountain for several months, ever since you packed up all of your belongings and left home carrying them on your back or on a donkey or in a wagon. You've been camping along the way every night, and this mountain has been your destination. You've been walking towards it each day, and God is going to meet you here. God set up this meeting with Moses and directed him to bring you all here, the whole extended family, so that you could worship God together at this mountain. So that you could worship this God that made an everlasting covenant of relationship with you and with your extended family. And God has not forgotten that covenant, that promise of relationship that he made long ago with you and your family. God has shown faithfulness to that relationship and has brought you and your community out of a bad situation in Egypt where you were enslaved. And you have finally arrived. The day has come. And to get ready for this meeting, you have washed up, and everyone has put on their best special occasion clothes, and you have gathered in a crowd at the base of the mountain. There have been calls to worship, and there have been prayers, and there was a brilliant trumpet introit. And now the excitement is building because God is coming to give you a gift, a precious gift that will prepare you for God to come and live among you and take this relationship to the next level. And so you are trembling with anticipation. Do you feel it? Allow that eagerness, that excitement to rise within you. Maybe you felt that excitement on other occasions and can recall that emotion. Maybe from being in the crowd at a home game in the final moments as your team is poised to win. Or maybe it was when you got up at the crack of dawn and tiptoed down the stairs to break open the Christmas presents. Or maybe it was when you cracked open a bottle of cold water after a tough day working in the hot sun, and as that seal pops, you eagerly anticipate the cold water in your mouth. That's a hint of the emotion that would have been there at the mountain that day. The nation of Israel stands filled with anticipation, trembling with eager, fearful excitement. The elders and the leaders of the community go to the front, and Moses walks up into the mist on the mountain. And then he emerges with 2 engraved stones. The gift is the 10 words that are inscribed on those stones by God. Not single words, but 10 messages, kind of like if you were to say to someone, "Can I have a word with you?" It's not usually just one word, it's a message. These words that were engraved on those stones came to be known as the Decalogue. Deca means 10, and log is for logos, which means word. 10 words. 10 words that God, whose word spoke the world into being, had given you. This God who had spoken the word light and sunshine had streamed down for the first time. This God who spoke the word life, and the earth became teeming with plants and animals. God spoke again, and humans breathed for the first time. This God spoke, and his word of promise was preserved in a rainbow. This God spoke and created a special relationship with Abraham and with Sarah, and through them, with you. And so we too can imagine ourselves at the foot of that mountain as Moses begins to speak. And Moses shares those 10 words with the gathered community, the same words that you heard me read a few minutes ago that we now call the 10 Commandments. However, I'm guessing that as I read those words a few minutes ago, you were not feeling eager excitement and anticipation. You were not trembling with eagerness. Rather, over the centuries, we've come to see these 10 words as a heavy burden, as a weight that breaks backs. We hear them as a stern set of rules spoken with a voice of authority and scolding and demanding. Perhaps we see them as impossible expectations. They've been heard at times as words from a God who maybe wants to trip us up, or from a God who's portrayed as an oppressive taskmaster whose aim is to punish us if we step out of line. In some places, people have tried to set up these 10 words as legal requirement. But that was never the intention for these 10 words. No, these were given as a loving gift to a people who were starting a new life, a free life, a life in which God was now going to come and live among them, and these words were given to prepare them. They were given as words of light and words of life, and I wonder if this morning we might be able to hear them again that way, if we can receive them as loving and life-giving words for us. Let's try by beginning in the middle, hearing those words about Sabbath. In every week, fill 6 days with work and chores and errands, but set aside one day as a day to rest physically, to rest by doing things that give you joy, things that restore your soul, rest in your relationship with God through worship. This is a life-giving word of guidance we need now more than ever. We live in a 24/7 frenetic world of streaming news feeds and stores that never close. We carry devices in our hands so that we can be contacted at a moment's notice, phones in our pockets by day and under our pillows by night. There are times when that phone seems like a comfort and a connection to loved ones, but it brings with it expectations that we respond at a moment's notice to any breaking news, to the beck and call of anyone who has a comment or a question, to every beep and bell and tweet. So what a gift God offers when he says, take a day off on a regular basis. Trust me to handle things and to provide on that day. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Keep it set apart. Keep it special. Keep it restful. The 10th word is similarly life-giving today. Don't covet the things others have or chase after those things. In other words, quit trying to keep up with the Joneses or whoever your neighbor's name is. Quit trying to look over the fence with a sense of longing, or at beautifully staged Instagram or Pinterest pictures, or peeping into the lives of the rich and famous. Those just create discontent within us. This word from God seems more relevant in our world today than ever before, where the inequity is greater than it's ever been. Few people have grasped for more and more and have left the others with less and less. And so God's word of life says, be free of comparing and striving so that everyone can simply have what they need. Consider only your own circumstances and your own needs. Learn to be content. This word is freeing. The other words of guidance for our lives together in community are similarly freeing and life-giving. Hear them again. Don't murder each other. Don't steal from each other. Don't cheat on each other. Don't lie to get someone else in trouble. Can you imagine for a moment how wonderful it would be if the whole world lived by these words? I know it's utopian, but there would be no dark places where you feared for your life. There would be no need for locks to guard your stuff, no fear of being thrown under the bus by your coworker, no heartbreak from infidelity. Of course, the reality of life is not that way. There is crime, there is violence, there is betrayal. When God gave these words to the people of Israel, these things existed too. They had experienced it firsthand, having been enslaved and oppressed and mistreated. And then having been freed and they moved into the wilderness, they were surrounded by other people who saw them as a threat. In fact, on their way to Mount Sinai, they had been attacked by one of those people groups, the Amalekites. But standing at the mountain, they were given words of guidance for how they should live together in community and how their life in community should be an example of how all humanity was created to live in harmony together. This is the same task for the community of faith today, for our church family. In the midst of a world that sets one person and one race and one nation against another, we are to live respecting one another and honoring one another and protecting and caring for one another and treating each other well. Jesus summarized these words in one command: love one another. He said, "By this the world will know that you are my disciples, that you love one another." The way the family of believers lived together was to be a witness to their relationship to the God who created them and created everyone. It was the relationship that would give them that ability to live by these words of guidance on how to treat one another. These harmonious relationships within the family wouldn't come from simply trying hard to follow these strict rules. They would naturally flow from a relationship of faithfulness with the God who made us. And so the words of guidance, those first words that came in those list of 10, give us guidance on how to live in a healthy relationship with God. Give God the first priority in your life. Don't be teased away from God by the distractions around you. Don't disrespect God by using God's name to curse or using God's name to make promises that you don't intend to keep. Make your relationship with God your priority, and it will be the relationship through which you will understand who you are and what you were created to be, your purpose in life. The nation of Israel received this gift of guidance from God, these 10 life-giving words at the foot of Mount Sinai. And they responded together with one voice: "We will do everything the Lord has said." Later, 40 years later, as the next generation of that family was on the border of their homeland and preparing to enter that land, they listened as Moses once again spoke these words to them. That story and that version of the 10 words are recorded in the book of Deuteronomy. There's a few slight differences as Moses applied these words of life to a new generation, to their new situation, their new stage of life. And yet the essence of these words, to promote good, to teach wisdom, to preserve life and well-being, was the same. And Moses said to them, this time as they stood on the bank of a river, he said, hear these words. I am about to teach you, learn them, live them. God, our God, made a covenant with us at Mount Sinai, but God didn't just make this covenant with our parents. He also made it with us, with those of us who are alive right now, he said. And then he told the people, what I'm commanding you today is not too difficult for you. It's not beyond your reach. It's life and blessing. So now, choose life so that you and your children may live long in the land, that you may love the Lord your God and listen to his voice and hold fast to him, for the Lord is your life. And just as that next generation of Israel recommitted itself to that covenant relationship, we too, those who are alive right now, also enter anew this covenant that's made with God at Sinai. We enter that story, we have our own covenant moment, and we make that commitment again. And we also have an additional gift from God, the gift of the Holy Spirit, which helps us and guides us as we strive to keep these words. And so this morning, I want to say to you, choose life. And as an affirmation of that choice, we're going to stand up and we are going to sing, "This is my commandment, that you love one another, that your joy may be full." It's number 600 in the hymnal, and if we stand and sing together.